Hi everyone, welcome to the Career Services interview. Today I have with me Camille Edwards. Hello Camille.
Hi, so excited to be on here.
How are you doing today?
Pretty good. Weather's been really good. I really like that.
That's good. Yeah, we're in the same marketing strategy class. We were just talking about that before. How's marketing strategy treating you?
Oh my gosh, I was not expecting to like it so much, but when we had the CEO of Athleta come in on Monday, that was huge. All my friends texted me.
Yeah, that was actually really cool. And it was in person too, which I didn't expect. I wasn't in class that day.
No.
But that was really cool. But yeah, so let me quickly intro, well, myself really quick. I'm a sophomore at Wharton studying finance and probably real estate. And for Camille, I'm gonna try to do your intro and I'm gonna ask you to do your intro. I stole most of the information off of LinkedIn. But Camille, you're a junior at Wharton studying finance and business analytics. Very unique dual concentration. And then freshman summer, you were a private equity, private credit intern at Starmount Capital. This past summer, sophomore summer, you worked at Altamont as a summer strategy analyst. And then this upcoming summer, you're doing banking, typical banking at Goldman Sachs in their natural resources group. You're also a D1 student athlete, you're a rower. That's all I have from your LinkedIn. So I don't know how I did there.
That was good.
Okay. Is there anything I missed? Is there anything else you want to sort of I don't know, say about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I'll fill in the blanks. My LinkedIn is everything, so you got it all. But really love being on the rowing team here at Penn. Finance and business analytics, I feel like it's tried and true. A lot of friends who are doing it with me. And I'm from Sarasota, Florida, so took a little bit of a move to come up here up north, but I'm really liking it.
For sure. Yeah, I actually want to I guess let's just start back when you were in high school. Did you always know that you wanted to do sort of business, come to Wharton, do banking, or...
It's actually been like a roller coaster of what I want to do. I think I had that middle school want to be a doctor that everyone had, took anatomy and then didn't like it at all. But I needed to recruit to be on a rowing team. And I was telling all these college coaches, I really like math. I'll probably be an applied math major. And then COVID hit and my mom was like, why do you want to be an applied math major? And I was like, probably to go into consulting. And she was like, well, you're not talking to Penn yet, and they have the Wharton Business School. What if you try to go there? And I was like, that makes so much more sense. I should be a business major if I'm going to go into business. And loved the coaches, thought the team was great, and chose Wharton for that. But I thought I was going to go into consulting. So freshman year, I sort of did my research, talked to the people at Career Services on the differences between the jobs, and that landed me into private credit, which I really liked. Private equity last summer, and now investment banking.
Wow. So you knew you wanted to do consulting when you were in high school? Is that what I'm hearing? Or
Yeah, so my dad did consulting, but I didn't really know anything about it through him until that whole what do you want to do with applied math kind of happened. And I was like, I don't know why I'm doing applied math. Because all the college coaches were like, that's cool, you can do applied math. And then it really clicked at COVID at home, what do I actually want to do with my life?
Right. And we were talking about this earlier. You're considered a math minor.
Yeah.
Right? And then, so
I
what
thought
happened?
about it.
What happened to the math minor?
The math minor, I also thought of a Chinese minor. I think freshman year I was like, what can I do while I'm here? And the classes I liked the most were in the business school. So I was like, I need that time for my classes to be an extra management class or an extra marketing class, whatever I can squeeze in. So math minor fell through.
Okay, yeah. I mean, no, it seems like you're doing great going to Goldman, which for everyone that doesn't know, Goldman's top of the iceberg. I don't know what the saying is, but it's a great place to be, especially leaving undergrad. Let's start with your freshman summer, honestly. So you came to Wharton. Just tell us about sort of your process with applying to Starmount Capital. How did you get this position? If there's freshmen watching this, what would you recommend or tell them? Tips for them throughout this process?
Okay, definitely. So I think it was in the beginning of spring semester freshman year. It was about January. And I was like, I need to start realizing am I going to live at home this summer? Do I want to get a job this summer? And I, went on Career Services. There's these vault information articles where it's what kind of job and what's their day in the life. And then I looked on YouTube, day in the life of investment banking, day in the life of private equity. and etc. And honestly, it was like my first time making a LinkedIn, first time making a resume. Had to go to career services for that too. I'm a big career services fan. And then I realized I wanted to be near home. So I started looking for places near Sarasota, near Tampa, or remote. And going through Handshake, sorting that through really helped. I had my parents kind of look and see if they had any friends who did something that I was interested in. And my Star Mountain Capital internship, there was me and another Wharton student. So I actually got into the interview process because my dad, like, reaching out and like finding someone who would like even show me somewhere to submit my application. And the other Wharton student, he just found it on Handshake.
Wow.
So I thought it was funny that like we both took two different avenues and ended up in the same spot.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, that's an important thing, especially freshman summer. It's super tough and competitive to get things. Like myself, like I'm a sophomore now. This past summer, I interned at WEVA, Wharton Impact Venture Associates. I don't know if you've heard of that, but it's like a program through Wharton ESG. Pretty much we source for like impact companies and connect them to crowdfunding platforms. But that was like low key my like last resort because I applied like everywhere and looked at so many different places, but one, just not that many places were taking freshmen.
Yeah.
So that was like the biggest thing. So that's
No,
really
it's
cool.
true.
Yeah.
Like I feel like they put me through the most like grueling application process. I was talking to them. I, sent over my resume in March. They gave me back like a list of questions I needed to answer. And then I had like 6 calls with people.
Oh, wow.
And that constituted like my interviews. It was like 6 behaviorals.
Jeez.
Because they couldn't really go off of technicals. They just had to go off of fit. And I'm really happy that they put me through those 6 because otherwise I wouldn't have been able to like root for myself and like convince them that like, even if I don't know it now, like I'm going to learn it. Like take a freshman, you like, please. And it was so huge to have that freshman summer. I'm really glad I did.
For sure. Was that other person, the other Wharton student, also a freshman that
Yeah.
got it? Or
Yeah.
Are you still in touch with this person now? Or?
Yeah, I see him all the time. There were actually 2 sophomores who worked there, so we all got lunch together.
Oh, wow.
During NSO. We all like met up. One of the people from Tampa moved to New Jersey, so he came over too. It was a really fun lunch.
Yeah. So it's a pretty like 4 Wharton students or 4 Penn students were interning there at the same time, or was it just?
It was split up. It was
split up,
2
okay.
my year, including myself, and then 2 the next year.
Gotcha. So they take Wharton kids. If like anyone wants to apply, then they should look into it.
It is a little bit tough because you're gonna have to be in the Tampa office, like move to Tampa. So for me, it wasn't that bad. Like I got an apartment with my sister, but like for Sonny, he's from Rhode Island, so he was like, "Guess I'm moving to Tampa. Never been there before." And the second day, he was like, "I don't even know where in Florida we are."
Like, you got paid though?
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Did the pay would you say cover the housing or?
No, not really.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah. But my parents, I felt really bad for them, and they're like, "This is an investment in you." Right. So
that makes sense.
We couldn't train you this stuff.
How was the work life there? Did you have to go because obviously it's an office. Was it like a hybrid option, or were you there I don't know 5 days a week, 4 days a week?
It was an office, 5 days a week. I was on the portfolio management team, so they were definitely more of a 5 days a week, 8 to 6 hours, and then I would stick around for the underwriting group, and that was deal team hours.
Gotcha. Okay, and what do those hours look like?
If they had an active deal coming up, they would take the Saturdays and the Sundays and be in person, and then most of us would stay for the dinner. If you stay past 7, you get free dinner, and then hang out. That was our whole group, and I really enjoyed it. I was like, this job is turning into my life, but it's still really fun to stay till 10 p.m. and proofread their documents.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I still take with me is that culture. I'm so lucky that I got to meet them.
Gotcha. And I think that also sets you up for success last year or last summer. I guess Altamont and whatnot. I think it's really cool. Also, it seems super structured. It seems like you learned a lot because I think with a lot of freshman internships, they're super unstructured. Right. Yeah. At the same time, because they're so unstructured, you don't actually learn anything or do anything of value. But it seems like you did a lot. I feel like you learned a lot. Would you agree?
Yeah, I totally agree. So their process, they actually had some University of South Florida students who worked there during the school year. Okay. So they had started training them in March. So like my biggest mentor was like the USF junior
Mm-hmm.
who like taught everyone what to do, taught the freshmen what to do, and then that's how we got really involved.
Gotcha.
Was because it wasn't like an internship for a freshman. We don't know what to give you. It was like an internship for a junior, but you're a freshman.
Right. Gotcha. So it seems super collegial too. There's like other upperclassmen from the local like colleges nearby
Yeah.
teaching you. So there's that aspect. So it seems pretty like lively.
Yeah.
I guess, like during your experience.
It was really nice. There was, well, okay, they just moved into the Tampa office.
Mhm.
So there was a VP, a senior associate, 2 guys, and then the 6 guy interns and me. So it was like just like the 9 of us in this office to ourselves.
Okay, gotcha. That's nice. Wait, so there's 9 interns.
And I was,
Just yourself.
it was like 7 interns, 2 like actual adults, and then me.
Oh, really? It's a pretty small office then, right? In terms
Yeah.
of like,
At the time, I mean, they like started to get people to move down from New York, and they like hired so many more people. But I remember my boss was like, "By the way, you're gonna be the only girl." And I was like, "What?"
damn. DEI. DEI.
Hey,
for you.
you know,
But that's a good thing. I'm sure you brought the perspective. That they
I
needed,
did.
Right?
I did.
No, that's good. Okay. The bulk of this, I guess, like interview I really want to ask you about is
Yeah.
Altamont.
Yes.
Because when you filled out that form, that was what the like response was for. So, Altamont Capital Partners. Do you want to just give a quick overview, like what that firm is and like what they do? I know they're middle market,
Yes.
right? So, do you want to explain kind of like what Altamont does and what you did as a summer strategy analyst?
Yeah. So, just about Altamont, middle market private equity firm. They're looking for companies that they can buy, full leverage buyout, and then they want to improve them. And that's like really to their core values. And then, once they feel like they've had them for a while and they've like successfully built them up, then they're going to sell them. And that's how they generate money. But what I felt like was really unique was the partners came from Bain Capital and then had their own private equity firm and then left because he really wanted to make it just on middle market focus. And that's not what the last PE firm was sort of evolving into. So they really took a great group of people who really genuinely want to be in the middle market and find companies that are like in a time of downturn or like just need a little bit of help and guidance from, these amazing, like people with amazing backgrounds in business. And so they came to visit Penn my sophomore, like it was like September. It was like the second week of school. Like they've already visited by now. And I went to the info session and they're like, we come from a consulting background. We're super hands-on. So since we're so hands-on, we send our sophomores to a portfolio company. Mm-hmm. And the sophomores work out of there. And that's your boss. Yeah.
Okay.
And then the juniors, like you're doing deals and, hopefully if you guys people stay, like to become full-time analysts, you would do deals. Mm-hmm. But you have to have that sophomore summer, like foundation of like, gotcha. What's it like being at a company that's been acquired and actually needs to make those improvements that you talk about. So that was my job. So I was interviewing with them and they're like, we do have a portfolio company in Sarasota, Florida. And I was like, no way. And they're like, yeah, it's Service Mines. It's Mr. Sparky Electric, 1 hour AC and HVAC, and then Ben Franklin Plumbing. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like, I'm the luckiest person in the world. Like they have a portfolio company where I'm from. I wouldn't even have to move. So I'd already really wanted to work for them. And then I really, really wanted to work for them. And I was just super lucky that it worked out. So yeah, I was at home, would travel into the office, and just kind of worked with Altamont to make that company better.
Gotcha. Can you just tell us more about your kind of interview process? Because I had a few friends also going through the Altamont process now, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, they were telling me like it's obviously really competitive. I would assume like tons of kids because like you have to understand like here you're competing against other Penn Wharton kids for these like jobs, right? Mm-hmm. And a few friends, I think they're like, how many rounds did you have for this?
Probably, I think I had like 4. One of them was a 2-parter, and then on my own, I asked for 2 coffee chats from former interns.
Got it.
And actually, I feel like the coffee chats was like really like a core part of it for me because it was that like, one-on-one time with like a Penn student who would tell me if they actually really liked it or not. So I'm glad I like asked the head of HR for who would work there, like
Okay.
even though I was super scared to. Because once I had talked to Penn kids and I was like, okay, this is serious. Like they are really like this firm. They have a good culture, and we're not in an interview, so I trust them.
Wait,
So it was like 6 rounds.
Gotcha. So do you think like speaking to or like coffee chatting like Penn kids like helped in your application in the sense that it seems like because you reached out to the HR sort of like department, right? So it shows that you have that excitement almost to them. But do you think sort of like coffee chatting like Penn kids like helped you throughout the app process, or do you think it just like gave you a little more sort of color about what the firm like does and what it's like?
I think both.
Okay.
I think that like for me to know more about the firm and to like get a sense of, the sophomore program for them is like so unique. I don't think anyone else like sends an intern out to a portfolio company and like has them move to Dallas, which like a few of us like class did. But really just like then in my own interviews, I was like, Catherine told me how great of a summer she had. So it was a little bit of both. Like I knew for myself that I did want to work there. And then they also could tell that easier.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that's really cool. So you spoke to 2 people, and then from that, So I spoke to 2 people, and then was 4 parts almost for the process. She said.
Okay, I think exactly was like an intro behavioral with the head of HR. She was great. Just total get to know you questions, and then maybe one more of those, or it was a technical, and they sent out like heads up, we're gonna give you a technical. Even though we're a PE firm, we do consulting cases. You're gonna have 2 back to back.
Okay, so was it like 2 like consulting like casing sort of like interview styles? Oh, okay,
exactly.
Okay.
I like YouTubed like Bain consulting interview prep, and I got this like Bain video of like how to do a consulting case.
Okay.
So I just like watched that like 4 times in a row.
Was that like your only prep, or did you ask like, let's say, upperclassmen to like mock you, or did you use other resources, or like what resources would you recommend for someone like going through like the Altamont process right now? Would have to go through that like part, that technical aspect part.
Okay, the Bain video was recommended by the former intern.
Okay.
So it was kind of like a Penn student helping me out.
Right.
And then I don't think I mocked it other than like, pausing at the beginning of the video and trying to do it myself.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think in this like spring, I like really got a sense of like I need to mock this and like practice with someone. But in the fall, I was just kind of, just this is my first case. Please don't be too harsh.
Yeah.
But they were great. Okay. I mean, they know that it's you just finished freshman summer and like people mess up.
That makes sense. So after that piece, what was next after the 2 like consulting case interviews?
I had 2 behavioral, and like the only technical was kind of like a why do you want to work here, and like what do we do with like senior team members. It was so cool. I mean, I think the people at Altamont are great. Like one of them was this guy who used to play in the NFL and was on the Eagles. And I was like, cool. This is the coolest thing I'm ever doing.
And he's working there.
Yeah. And now he's a senior team member. That's so sick. And then another guy who I thought was great. And then that was pretty much it for interviews. I think the next time I talked to them was like either a follow-up or like the offer. Okay.
So it seems like it's a first sort of screening call by HR just to see if you're cool, personality fit. And after that, it's bit of technicals, and then last is just vibe check, another fit with like a senior member.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty like typical or across the board. I feel like I've also had an interview experience where it's also like they speak with HR first, and then you do like some technical rounds. I got cut during the technical rounds.
No.
And then like the final with like the senior sort of like member. So that's a pretty across the board. Yeah. Were you like recruiting for anywhere else, or was like Altamont like your first place and then you got the offer?
It was so early that it was practically my first place.
Because September.
Yeah.
Right? That's like, wow, that's super early.
So I had other applications out, but they weren't interviewing. And I actually was still working at Star Mountain part-time.
Oh, okay.
So you know how like those kids did remote? Yeah. I did do remote. And that was stressful, but worth it because I feel like I was like doing my time management as much as possible. And once I got Altamont, I was like, okay, sorry, Storm Mountain, goodbye.
Wait, so can you like, so how did you manage that? Because you're also a D1 athlete, right?
Yes.
You were also taking finance accounting, which like is a pretty
Yes.
like hard combo for those that don't know. You're also working part time at Star Mountain.
Yep.
You're interviewing for this. I'm sure you had other stuff going on. So how did you like time manage all of that? Did you still have time to like? Yeah, I mean, well, yeah. I
It
mean,
was a little crazy. I think since for Star Mountain, I had to like in advance tell them what my hours were gonna be.
mhm,
And man, I was doing like, hey, I'm gonna work Monday 7 to 8 p.m. and Tuesday 4 to 6, and these random hours.
mhm,
But for me, it was like completely blocking my schedule, so I knew when and where I was gonna do everything,
right.
which was nice. I'm just that kind of person,
Mhm.
so it wasn't that bad. But yeah, I think I did put all my eggs in one basket for Altamont, though. I was like, this is the place I want to be. I need to nail this interview every time I went into an interview.
Gotcha. And while applying to Altamont, did you know that you want to sort of explore that investing finance sort of space? Because I know you said earlier you were more sort of like exploring consulting. Um, so like, what was it that made you sort of like shift towards that like PE sort of like investing sort of finance side?
Mm.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. So pre private credit, and that was like a private equity, private credit
Mhm.
freshman summer, I like super like didn't know what I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to do consulting. And the reason why I wanted to do consulting was to like make an impact on companies and like work with them, problem solve, like really like get to know them. And that's what I thought consulting would be like, which it totally is. But once I actually like heard the word private equity for the first time, I
Mhm.
was like, that's what I want to do.
Okay.
Like definitely took a little bit to realize that. But then I realized like, they're owning the company. Like this is theirs. Like they really want to improve this. You're stuck with them for, normally 7 years. Altamont is 10 years because they want that like longer fund life. They want to stay with that company. They want to keep improving it. And so that helped me also realize that I want Altamont so much
Mhm.
because Star Mountain being private credit, like you're on the debt side, like
Right, right.
you're the loaner, um, and you don't actually have like an equity stake.
Mhm.
You do have a stake, but you don't own it. You don't in the day-to-day operations. But Altamont is so in the day-to-day operations that like an intern goes there.
Right.
So I was super excited about that. I was like, this definitely is like what I wanted for this private equity like experience. Um, but after then, I learned a little bit more about investment banking.
Yeah.
So that's like a whole new.
Yeah, so that was gonna be my next question.
Okay.
So what happened there? So why are you doing banking
Yeah.
next summer? Why didn't you, return to Altamont and do more to the deal team, so like sourcing or like diligence aspect? So
Mhm.
yeah, what's the sort of path there?
Yeah. So I talked to so many people trying to
Mhm.
like figure out, if I was sure about private equity, because of course everyone's going to ask you like, why are you even going to try for investment banking? So I feel like I had like a lot of opinions coming in, and it was super overwhelming, like deciding. But at the end of the day, the thing I was most excited to do was to be on deals.
Mhm.
And that's just completely what investment banker does. They're just on deals. And they get to do like a variety. It's not just M&A. Like you're going to do equity raises, debt raises, and like IPOs. And if I had stayed at a middle market private equity firm, who knows if I'll do an IPO,
Right.
right? So that was one thing where I was like, oh, I actually like am not going to see an IPO. And that kind of started the like snowball effect of
Mm.
what do investment bankers get to do and why do people really get drawn to that career? And then of course it's everything on top of that, like the training, the big group environment. I only recruited the bulge bracket investment banks because I really wanted that like big team.
Right.
And I know that's why some of my friends only wanted to recruit at like elite boutique
Boutiques.
investment banks because they wanted like a bigger portion of that team to be their hard work, and that's like them. And rowing is a huge team. We've got like over 50 girls on the roster. And so like that's how I imagine like, finishing my undergraduate career on rowing and then, going to this bank where like I get to see friends in asset management, wealth management, and then all the investment bankers. So that was sort of like another draw, was just sort of like the lifestyle actually, which people don't normally attribute to investment
Right,
banking.
right.
But for me, it was like, if they're going to take like 50 interns, like that's like 50 friends.
Right, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of like thing about like banking, even though like hours are like killer, like I think everyone knows that across the board. It's the fact that you're like doing it with like 50 other people.
Yeah.
Right?
And
Like,
that's
you're,
what I
like,
liked about
yeah.
freshman summer. Is
Okay.
we'd stay until 10 p.m.
Just-
like
mhm.
because we could,
Right.
and we had nowhere to like. It was more fun being in the office with each other.
Right, right.
And I was like, wait, I could get that with private equity, but I'm definitely gonna get that with banking.
For Altamont, was it just you in the office? Because did they just send one person to a portfolio
Yeah.
company?
It
Okay.
was just me. Luckily, I was on a company that the Altamont analysts were working a lot on, because they had just finished like the acquisition of the other two brands, so there was still a lot to do. So I feel like I had like constant like lines of communication with them, which was great. But yeah, I was the only Altamont person there.
Mm.
Everyone was still great though, and if I had recruited after, it would have been a lot harder to leave this great culture and the great people I'd met.
Right.
But I still like telling all my friends to apply to Altamont. Like
Mhm.
right when they came out, I was like, you need to be at that info session.
Yeah.
They're great.
I'm assuming they already had their info session, right? Because it's so late now. It's almost
Yeah.
late October.
They came during like the second week of school.
Did you go like and say hi to the?
No, I
CMH
didn't.
already?
I didn't
No.
want to like
Oh, because you're not going
overstep.
back.
Yeah.
That also makes sense.
But I know the other like Wharton girl, Grace, she is going back. She's a junior in the Hunton program. And like she loved it. And it's in like San Francisco, like, this is like the only time in our life that we could probably live in San Francisco, like with these rent prices.
Right.
And she's from California, so she's like not far from home. And they were just like different draws for her.
That makes sense. Yeah. I'll kind of circle back to sort of banking and Goldman. So for the recruiting process, you recruit for a specific group. Is that right?
Yes,
For
for
so
Goldman.
natural resources is sort
Yeah.
of like where you're going. Why natural resources? Because I feel like a lot of people that I know, like for example, I would be interested in the TMT group, just
Yeah.
not because it's just the best group, but also just TMT is like what I'm interested in.
Super cool.
Right?
Yeah.
So like why natural resources? Because I feel like that's super like I don't know, like not random, but it's almost like
It's a niche.
yeah, it's niche, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, why not res?
Okay. I was pretty much open for the like group wise, probably because of the fact that the other banks are so generalist with their offers. They are a generalist recruiting process, kind of easier like for me to go in generalist. Like recruiting for Goldman actually kind of like messed up my generous feel. I was like, wow, I really have to like narrow in on a group now. And they came to visit Penn. I think it was the first week of March. And I got to meet some of the people in the Natural Resources group. One of the guys who's in the Houston office came to visit too. I thought he was great. And once I realized that like that was one of the spots I was going to gun for, I really wanted to do my research and learn about it because it is that niche. They are looking for someone who's going to fit in their group and knows the industry. And that's when I realized I was like, this is actually really exciting and really cool. And, I think we all know like, okay, like water, electricity, like oil, gas, like it's everywhere. But we're in like the most unique time for like green energy and like EV tech. And that's crazy to me. Like to learn that Chevron is buying up like a renewables company because they know that there's going to be a conversion into renewables is so cool. Like GS Houston was like on that deal because they're the oil and gas office. And like, I don't know, it didn't really click for me that like all the oil and gas companies that we know now do want to convert to like the clean tech and the green tech. Like they know that this is happening. They want to get into renewables. And then for the broader part of the group outside of energy, like there's like chemicals, metals, mining, which like who knows, I could fall in love with chemicals, like fertilizer, paint, like
Interesting.
it might happen. If I'm on a paint deal, I'd be like, that's my paint color on the wall.
That's actually super interesting because like when I think of natural resources, I don't think I've like thought about sort of like green tech or like green tech, like green energy. So that's super cool because like when I think of natural resources, I think of more like you said, like oil and gas, for example, right? Wait, so are you gonna be in the Houston office then, or are you?
No, I'm gonna be in New York.
Okay, you're gonna be in New York. Do you like feel like you'll be like pigeonholed if you like do sort of like natural resources? Because at least from what I've heard and from the coffee chats that because I'm also going through like placement process because I'm going to BFA next summer.
So cool.
So I have to like deal with like placement too.
Yeah.
And a lot of things that I've heard about energy or like natural resources is that you get pigeonholed just because like the stuff you do in that sort of like group, it's so like niche.
Right. Like the deal is like
Exactly.
the valuation
and, like,
process.
The valuation process.
Yeah.
But of course, like also you're also an intern, so it's like you're not really pigeonholing yourself because you're only an intern. But like, what do you think about sort of like that? About sort of like pigeonholing yourself into sort of like natural resources when there's like a bunch of other sort of like industries out there.
Right. I think that is something that sort of gets spread around because of especially like the valuation for oil and gas deals. And like I'm sure that like metals and mining will have the same thing. Like you got your plot of land, you got to value that. But on the whole, I think it's still going to be very applicable. I feel like since I'm going to Goldman, like that's one thing that really works out because all of the industry groups do their own M&A modeling. And not every bank does that. Like I know for B of A, there's an M&A group, right? So
that's what I'm aiming for. Hopefully I get
awesome.
it.
No, I was talking to someone who was M&A group. He was a rower at Cal. He was great. And like, another Penn student from like healthcare, like I feel like I went through the same recruiting process. Like all these people are great. All these banks are great.
Right.
And like B of A is gonna be awesome. But since we do our own M&A, like that kind of does change it for me because I can't really get pigeonholed into like, oh, you only pitch chemicals. Like what else can you do? Like I'm not only doing pitching, I'm doing execution.
Right.
So I think it's gonna be really good.
Okay, that's fair. But I think the other thing that I've heard is that yes, you are like doing that pitching, but the pitching is so niche because at least from what I heard, like the modeling or the valuation is super like hyper specific. Like for example, if you do like real estate, like what I heard, like real estate modeling is so like you can't like take that knowledge elsewhere just because it's so like real estate. Heard similar things about like oil, energy. Does that ever like worry you at all? But like also you're an intern, so it's like you can always like probably like switch groups if you don't like it. Right?
Yeah,
like,
I think it's more of like I think before I started interviewing with them, I had that like kind of gut like, oh no, like what's it gonna be like?
Sorry guys, my camera stopped recording, so we're now on our phone. But that's a part of the job, right? You have to be adaptable. Yeah. So here we are. But you were saying energy modeling. Do you wanna?
I think the biggest thing for me was not, ruling something out just because I was a little worried about the possibility of being, too in a niche. Like, plan A, I love the niche, everything, like I stay in there forever. Plan B is like I learn my lessons and then I take with me and figure out what I want to do. But with the recruiting process, like there's no time to like stop and be like, actually Goldman, I don't want to work for you. Like I did those interviews knowing my research and being like, okay, I did find this cool. Like when they asked me like, do you actually want to do natural resources? I was like, yes, like with certainty.
Yeah, I mean you have to. Right?
Yeah, and that actually like I like felt that when I said it. Like there was no reason for me to go like, actually like I actually would just want to like stop talking to you and like, figure out another bank. Like, and to be honest, with the banks where you don't know which group you're getting into, like if I had waited, gotten to another bank, waited a year for a placement, I could be doing natural resources there. So like that was like a stream of thought of like it was kind of arbitrary what group I wanted to be in. Like if I wanted to be in TMT, it was like the arbitrary like I think tech is kind of cool like at like 20 years old. So like I didn't have anything like strong enough to be like I can't do natural resources. That would have been the only thing holding me back because any other group was also just like I know what consumer retail is.
Right.
I know people going to industrials and we don't really know what industrials is. So it's like, that's like awesome. Like they're going to go on the job and they're going to learn about it. Like same for me.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'm also like, a lot of my friends are going or considering industrials for BFA placement. I'm like, I have no clue what industrials is or means, but okay.
Right. So it's hard. So it was nice that like, every other thing, like the fact that I just don't really know if I like natural resources, like to the extent of doing it for my whole life is like, that's not a problem for right now.
That makes sense. Do you think you want to stay in sort of investing, finance? Because a lot of people like, do you want to go back to private equity? Do you want to?
I think I'm going to really like banking. And I know that's weird to say, but I think I'm going to really like it.
Okay. So maybe just stay.
I'm really excited for it. And I want to go in there and I want to give it like, I want to get the full experience. I hope they put me on as many deals as they can. Because I want to get like the real, like, what's going to be like as an analyst.
Sure, that makes sense. All right. Last question, like what's one like piece of advice you give to, I guess, I don't know, like people recruiting or going through the process right now?
Yeah. I guess the only thing I didn't say on here was like mock interviewing was like the key for me.
Okay.
I feel like I had mock interviews with friends, mock interviews with career services, and the one person I mocked with the most was my mom, because anytime I was a little bit nervous, she would be like, let's hop on Zoom and I'm going to run you through your questions. And then I was so like calm, cool, and collected. Like a lot of people do a lot of super days, do a lot of interviews, and some people do one super day and that's the job they get. So I wanted to go into everything like, this is going to be the job I get. And that was definitely thanks to like the prep in advance from mocks.
And your mom.
And especially my mom.
Wait, that's actually so cute.
It was especially my mom.
That's good. She provided good advice, you think, or was she more sort of like emotional support for you?
Both. I would call her after anything that I was worried about, anything that I needed to debate with someone, and like, you know, I didn't want to talk to friends who were also recruiting. Like, I didn't want to like cross that boundary of like, who's talking to you and who am I
that's
talking
like
to?
weird. Even like for me, it's like
it's awkward.
It's weird, right?
Yeah. So I talked to my mom.
Do you just not talk about recruiting with your friends?
No, not really.
Oh,
I think I had two that I like mocked with, and then I knew what they were doing. But any more than that, I probably would have been really stressed out.
Yeah.
So I kind of kept to myself. No one really knew that I had signed when I had signed.
Oh,
so that was kind of exciting.
Okay.
Yeah, just be like, guess what? I signed.
Okay, fair. Okay, cool. Yeah. That's all the time we have for the interview. Thanks so much, Camille, for
thanks for having me.
Coming on. Her socials, I guess, would be in the description box. So feel free to follow her. Connect with her on LinkedIn. Feel free to coffee chat her. I don't know. I don't know why I offer that for you. But,
you can connect with me on LinkedIn. Just put in the message box that you saw me on the Career Services YouTube.
And she'll definitely respond.
You have to say that you've subscribed.
Oh, great.
Like, comment, and subscribe.
Awesome. All right. Thank you again. Thank you guys for listening. And then stay tuned for the next episode, next interview.
Bye.